Mary from the dairy. But Mary wouldn't fall in love with me. Down by an old mill stream, we both sat down to dream. Little did she know that I was thinking of a scheme. She said, let's pick some buttercups and daisies. Those buttercups were full of margarine. We slipped and we both fell down by the wishing well, in the same place where I fell with Nellie Dee.
In this Bygone special, we look back to the grand old days of variety. For 30 years, there's been one name which could guarantee to not only get a laugh, but to fill the house. Indeed, the thickest end of 20 years after his death, there are still 4 long-playing records on sale and a newly published biography. Well, I'm sitting here quite comfortably in an empty theatre, but that's a sad place. So, let's fill it with people and sit back and enjoy Max Miller, the Cheeky Chappie.
Here, do you fancy me, lady? Do you fancy me? Well, you go taste. Listen.
A posthumous tribute to Max Miller's enduring memory. During his lifetime, he was known as the pure gold of music hall, the master of the double entendre, or to his adoring and faithful public, the Cheeky Chappie.
I work in a chemist shop. So I said, did you let the pharmacy? Yeah, there's a clever one, eh?
John M. East, the man in the Technicolor +4s and the flowered suit and accessories to match, comes from a theatrical family. He knew and worked with Max in his later years. Respect, bordering on devotion, has led John to develop his own impersonation, and he has recently published a successful biography.
Stitch on. How's your memory go?
Max Miller was a front cloth comic who I believe to be a genius in making people laugh.
I've got to be careful, because he may be somewhere around. Stay there.
Amid the splendours of Regency Brighton, a backstreet urchin, born Thomas Henry Sargent, second son in a family of 5, grew up in impoverished circumstances. Barely literate, in 1914 he volunteered for the army and served in Mesopotamia and India. He came back to join Jack Sheppard's concert party, the leading and most popular alfresco show on the beach at Brighton. Roy Denton, also an aspiring artist, and later a devoted friend and confidant, was appearing in a rival concert party at the time.
I first met Max in 1921, a light comedian like I was, and of all things singing a number called "There Was a Little Bit of Devil in Every Little Angel." I don't think that was really Max. After the show we got together. He said, "Well, Roy, what do you think of the show?" I said, "Well, Max, you know, it wasn't too bad," but he said, "What do you think about me?" I said, "Well, do you want me to tell you?" He said, "Go on, I can take it, I don't mind." I said, "All right, Max." I said, "Until I saw you, I thought I was England's worst light comedian. But after this, you've given me a new lease of life."
The artist gave everything at the seaside. It was necessary to develop the closest bond with deck-chaired audiences to overcome the rival attractions of sun, sea and sand. That's, of course, when the weather was kind and didn't drive people from the beach altogether. Max survived, but refused to become complacent with his lot. He met his wife, Kathleen, working in the same show.
I saw this man in this horrible bright green coat and a pink shirt, and I thought the clothes were awful. Couldn't bear them. I kept looking at him because they fascinated me, because I'd never seen anybody wearing clothes like that before. And every time I looked at him, he was looking at me. However, I got off the bus, and he followed me. I thought, my heavens, this man's following me. Came to the same house, rehearsal room. I rang the bell and didn't speak to him. And Jack Sheppard said, "Oh, you know each other?" I said, "No, we don't." Didn't even want to know him.
But they were married. Kathleen then concentrated on developing her husband's career. She created his stage name, Max Miller, and adopted the description, the Cheeky Chappie. But the 1920s proved a great struggle for Max. he was never really happy appearing in revues.
For Max Miller, the turning point came in 1929. He was still a small-time comedian, but Julius Tarusky, who was a well-known agent in those days, saw Max and he said, "Listen, son," he said, "get out of that lounge suit, get into your flowered suit, and you'll be a big star." And there he went to the London Palladium, sensation.
Miller's the name, lady. There'll never be another, will there? They don't make them today, Duck. I know exactly what you're saying to yourselves. You're saying to yourselves, why is he dressed like that? I'll tell you why I'm dressed like this. I'm a commercial traveller and I'm ready for bed. I went to Blackpool and I went round looking for rooms and I knocked on a door. And the old lady came to the door, a nice lady. A little bit and some more, not quite so much, and then perhaps. And that's all I want, just a little encouragement. She said, "What do you want?" I said, "Could you accommodate me?" She said, "I'm awfully sorry, I'm full up." I said, "But surely you could squeeze me in the little back room, couldn't you?" She said, "I could, but I haven't got time now." I've got no trouble, nothing to live for, and that's the way to live. And you know why I'm happy? Because you've laughed at everything I've said, and you've applauded everything. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I get paid for what I'm doing. You're there to be amused, and I'm here to amuse you. When I go to a theatre, I take it nice and easy. If I go and see Shakespeare, I go fast asleep. Now, I'll make it easier for you. All the men undo their coats and vests and lie back, and the women do the best they can.
And George Black, who ran the Palladium, booked Max to appear at the Royal Variety Show of 1931. Then he went up to about £150 a week, and his career built and built. And I can tell you that by 1937, Max Miller was the first variety artist in the UK to earn over £1,000 a week. And 1 week at the Coventry Hippodrome, he picked up exactly £1,049, 10 shillings and sixpence.
Don't forget.
With television in its infancy, gramophone records were a very popular buy. Many stars decided to capitalise on their immense popularity. Max adapted some of his songs, often of a sentimental nature.
He stands 2 feet high. A little devil may care. Broke your promise to care.
Top comedian Roy Howard, always a fan of Max, recalls seeing his act just before the war.
I saw him at the Croydon Empire, I think it was, or it may have been the Holborn or Chelsea Palace, or one of those where my gran used to take me. And I saw him there, and I mean, I was arrested by this figure as soon as he walked on, this man in this fantastic floral suit, a white hat, absolutely in command. And to me, he looked like everything I'd ever wanted to be in life, you know. A fabulous dresser. I mean, he had terrific repartee, great lines. He said he seemed to be pals with everybody there. He pulled every bird he ever wanted, you know, and more besides. And he looked like everybody's sort of hero. He was my hero.
Max's agent, Julius Tarusky, persuaded him, against his better judgment, to take a small part in the 1932 film of The Good Companions, written by J.B. Priestley.
Well, the only thing I remember, because I'd really nothing to do with the filming, of course, except I did suggest him that he should play the part of the comedian in the thing. At least I'm under that impression. You know. Although at my age now, which is very advanced, you pretend you've suggested everything, but that's really him. And I remember that Vic, who was directing the film, found that Max was playing to the camera. So he rigged up a dummy camera that she could play to, while the real camera, which she never noticed, was filming it all the time.
it's all right. I don't want to tell you anything.
Thank God.
I was in your show last night. I heard some of your number.
I'm glad you think
and
so.
I think with your personality and my brains, we should make a lot of money. I mean that. Now tell me, who wrote these songs?
I did.
Make a lot of money. I've told you that. Don't be silly. Don't be foolish. Take them along yourself.
Well, where will I take them?
Take them to the publishers. You wouldn't take them to a grocer's. They're songs that you're selling, not cabbages.
What, Felder and Hunterman, you mean?
Yes, they're the people, Felder and Hunterman.
Mary Ann.
The early rave notices were not sustained. Max refused further cameo parts, preferring the starring role. Unfortunately, low budgets and poor scripts did nothing to further his film career. In all, he made 14 feature films. Success came with the Edgar Wallace classic, Educated Evans, but this was followed by yet more cheap, hackneyed stories.
Have you got any hake?
The only egg I've got, lady, is that lad over there. He's a pain in the neck. Now, what about a nice piece of cod?
Is it fresh?
Is it fresh? It's so fresh I can't keep it away from the others.
Have a piece out of the middle.
Have a piece out the middle. You can't go wrong with a piece out the middle. Half a crown, lady. And always remember, fish is good for the brain. Now, look at George. He's never touched a bit of it in his life. What are you doing? I'm cashing up. Cashing up? What about that one? Oh, that stuck to my fingers. Stuck to your fingers? Cheating again, eh? If you're going to cheat properly. Take a pound. I want to know how I stand the end of the week. Your hands are going to get you into trouble. So am mine if I'm not careful.
His stage popularity never waned. Max often broadcast, and after he was banned by the BBC for cracking a rude gag, he received a telegram from Lord Reith. We'll be sending Reith to your funeral. But he came back by public demand. A fellow rebel of convention, John Osborne, was a youthful admirer.
I used to hover around all those theatres like Chelsea Palace and so on, or the Met. And if you were lucky and picked the right time, you'd meet him in the bar, or you'd see him in the bar, and keep a safe distance and just look. And you saw this magnificent, florid, beautiful creature, extraordinary sight, and somebody buying him a drink.
Monsieur Eddie Gray, a member of the Crazy Gang, often appeared in Variety with Max, as did his brilliant juggling brother, Billy Gray.
His magic was solely in the fact he could walk onto a stage, not say a word, look straight up into the gallery, half smile on his face, and he would perhaps single out somebody in the audience, perhaps a lady who had a sort of a saucy kind of laugh, and he would make that his focal point to work upon, and gradually he would enlarge all right the way across the audience, so that every single person there felt really and truly that the only person that Max was talking to was just themselves. And he had two books. He used to take out the red book and the blue book, and he would ask the audience with a very, very cheeky grin on his face, which book is it to be tonight? Do you want the blue book or do you want the red book? And he said, I know exactly what you're going to say. Don't tell me, so I'll put the red book away and we'll keep the blue book out.
Max's true home was the Holborn Empire. In the 1930s, his name guaranteed full houses. When returning from provincial tours, audiences would shout out, "Welcome back, Maxie," and they meant it. In those days, Variety was often enlivened by situation comedy sketches. In one, a soubrette Jean Carr appeared, later to become internationally famous as Jean Kent.
Well, I'm a reporter, and I'd like to take down your particulars.
Well, what do you want to know about me?
Are you married?
In a way, on and off. Well, I'm kind of driving without a license, if you know what I mean.
Tell me, are you a college man?
Yes, I went to Rodine College.
But Rodine's a girls' college.
I know, I found that out as well.
Oh, don't I sound young, dear Max? You know, that was the first sketch from Applesauce, as I remember. Oh, he was a wonderful man. Of course, Max wasn't altogether pleased with having me thrust upon him. He was a bit sort of, you know this? Oh, well, yeah, you know. And gave me slightly rough ride, but Of course, he didn't realise that I was extremely experienced in feeding comics, that I'd been doing it ever since I was 10, frankly, and therefore did know what I was doing. I mean, if you suddenly get a kid of 19 thrust upon you, and I was a very young-looking 19 too. I was very, and but afterwards he became perfectly all right. He was very nice and very kind to me. Max used to say, "Now look, this is the idea of the sketch. You're the husband, you're the wife, and you're the lover. Now, we want 5 minutes, and the end gag is so-and-so, and you just have to fill in the rest."
His opening line one night was, now here's a funny thing, he said, I went to the chemist yesterday, and all the audience started laughing. Now, I mean, the only reason they laughed was because there was only one reason, or one article, that Max had ever gone to the chemist for. And that was the sort of aura he created. I mean, he had a marvellous signature tune, Mary from the Dairy, which that sort of warmed the audience up straight away. They knew they were in for a dangerous half hour, you know, as soon as they heard that music. And the music would play for a long time before Max came on. You know, I remember when we worked with him, it would go on about this much, you know. Bum, ba-dum, 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 very slowly. Ba-ba-da-bum. Bum, ba-dum, and the audience would start clapping. Ba-dum, ba-dum, da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, dun-da-dum, da-dum, and then he'd walk on. Here I am, and a terrific, the applause had just absolutely burst up.
I fell in love with Mary from the Dairy, but Mary wouldn't fall in love with me. Down by an old mill stream, we both sat down to dream. Little did she know that I was thinking of a scheme. Now on our farm, said Mary from the Dairy, we've got the finest cows you've ever seen. I don't do things by halves, I'll let you see my calves, and they're not the same shaped calves as Nellie Dean.
Things were very bad for the songwriter. We used to depend upon the few shillings that we used to get. And I happened to be sitting in the Express Dairy in Charing Cross Road.
Sam Kern, an exuberant Cockney songwriter, was responsible for introducing Max to his greatest hit, Mary from the Dairy.
But the waitress that used to wait on our table, her name was Mary. And always used to sit at the same table. And the idea struck me right away. Mary from the Dairy. And I got down and I had an old packet of weights, you know, a fourpenny packet of weight packet, and I tore it open and I started to write. I fell in love with Mary from the Dairy, but Mary wouldn't fall in love with me. And I went down to the Mining Empire, and I caught Max Miller. I said, Max, I've got a song for you that will make you as famous as Sally Mae Gracie Phil's. He said, well, he says, I'm not bothered with songs at the moment. He says, I don't think I'll buy it. No. I said, Max, this is the song that it will make you. I said, now listen to it, only listen. I know the Cheeky Chappie, the things I do are snappy. That's why the pretty girls all fall for me. In love I never vary, I don't think I can tarry. Ask Mary from the Dairy, here's the key. And then on to the chorus, you see. He says, well, it's all right. He says, still not struck on it. I said, that? Not struck. I said, it's a great song. What are you talking about? He said, well, I don't need it. I said, look, I'm skint. I need some money. I want money. He said, well, I'll tell Roger. He said, I'll give you £4. He says, and I'll take the song. He said, sign this bit of paper. So I put down, I, Sam Kern, sell the right singing rights to Max Miller. And I got my £4 and I rushed home to the old woman. I said, Annie, dinner money. We're all right.
My missus says she's going to divorce me. The moment that she does, then I am free. There's a pretty girl I know, I'll take her and I'll show just where Mary from the Dairy fell for me. Good night, everybody.
Bird's Eye, we thought we'd try to make our super moose a bit livelier. So we had a few goes at it. The bouncer, the flasher, the banger, the clockwork moose, the telescopic moose, the digital moose. Finally we settled on new super moose. Real chocolate, rippling raspberry, a strawberry sensation and perfect peach. New super moose from Bird's Eye. It out-mooses all other moose.
Oi!
Prepare to witness the ultimate demonstration of a driver's faith in a new car. The 100-mile-an-hour Citroën GSA. The driver will literally explode a tire in the path of these trucks and continue to steer as if nothing had happened. The 5-speed, high-speed Citroën GSA. There's no car like it in the world.
Magnet & Southerns open up a world of choice. An extensive range of doors available with tempered safety glass for strength. 150 styles of Krausen-built windows available with quality double-glazed units. Stylish patio doors like the exclusive Georgian look with tempered safety glass. Superb products at competitive prices. Most from stock. Nearly all direct from the manufacturer. And over 200 depots nationwide. Look us up in the phone book and call Select Collect from Magnet & Southerns.
Now there's a new banjo. Light, crispy wafers, smooth coconut filling, and toasted coconut flakes.
Delicious?
New toasted coconut banjo.
(1940), and London is under siege from the air. The grim reality of the Blitz never came near to breaking the spirit of the people. Although artists gave their services freely during this period, they have received little recognition for their efforts. A visit by Max to Louis Tussauds waxworks in Brighton gave many a cinema-goer an uplift, following the often depressing newsreel. Deserving causes could always count on Max for a donation or personal appearance. Once he loaned his house for use as a holiday home for St Dunstan's, a charity he had a soft spot for since being temporarily blinded in the First World War. The Hope and Empire received a direct hit, luckily during the night, but even this personal blow left him chirpy and irrepressible.
Never was an old around. Rich and kind and soft, no go fear of far. Wearing the famous bulldog grin and smoking a big cigar. He's a grim old man. For us he's doing all he can. And now it's up to you and me. We've got a job to do. We know that we have got the stuff that's going to see us through. There's the Army and the Air Force and the boys in Navy blue. And we still got the grand old man. Listen, I know exactly what you're saying to yourself. Why is he dressed like that? I tell you why I'm dressed like that. I'm an ARP warden, and when I finish it tonight, I go straight on duty. 8 o'clock, and away I'll go with me Stuart Bump. Last night I had fun. I went round and threw a light up in a lady's room. I stood up and I said, put that light up. She said, what? I said, put that light up. She said, you come and put it out. You left it on. You've got to be careful. That
The morale of the nation remained steadfast.
With places of public entertainment closed, Max toured service camps all over the country, often plucking humour from adversity. The troops responded to this.
Do you like this black night ducky? Do you like 'em, ladies? All dark and no petrol. I used to take 'em out in the country, any doorway now. Here. Have you seen the paper that the women are doing the men's jobs now? All the women are doing it now. Here, there's... Now, in Brighton there's a woman. She's cleaning windows. That's a man's job, isn't it? Cleaning windows, isn't it? It's a man's job. Right on top of a ladder, 5 stories high. Cleaning windows. And they say it's unlucky to walk under a ladder. Here. I took a jump.
You and me, we've got a job to do. We know that we have got the stuff that's going to see us through. There's the Army and the Air Force and the boys in Navy blue. And we still got the grand old man.
Government-sponsored savings drives were often given a boost by inviting a nationally known figure to the launching. It attracted the crowds and gave the event maximum publicity. Max enjoyed meeting the people, but he was always wary of the too plausible hard luck story. Roy Denton recalls advice given to Max in 1929.
George Black put his hand on Max's shoulder. He said, "Maxie boy," he said, "now you're getting your chance." He said, "You're going to be a name." He said, "Everybody will be sponging on you." He says, "Yeah, I know what it is." He said, "They would go to parties when you finish your show at night, go into bars and that sort of thing." But he says, "Maxie, your chance probably only comes once in a lifetime." He said, "When you've finished your show, boy, get on that train and back to Brighton to Kathy."
At home, his pleasures were rarely confined to buying a succession of expensive cars and keeping parrots. His fabled and carefully nurtured image of me
in any way whatsoever. I mean, I can give instances of Max which proves more than ever, without any doubt, that he helped so many people without other people knowing. For instance, there was a pianist, Alfred Fripp, a blind pianist, and Max had that man on all the...
Oh, I thought of them as pensioners. It used to be people... There was one, a little... I think he'd been an old music hall comic in his day. He was a very elderly man, in his late 60s, 70s. And he always was popping in to Max, and I know Max would, you know, give him £1, £2, £3, bring...
Doing this first spot on the bill, comedy stuff, we had the Zio Angels, I think, were a dancing act. They opened the show, and then we came on, myself and my pal, and did a double act. We only did one spot, though. I can't think why that was, but, well, probably because we were rotten. But we only did one spot, and we were working there during the week, and one night, we're working away, and just as we came off, I noticed that Mr. Miller himself, Max Miller, was standing in the wings watching us. I thought, this is good, and he did it the next night. So I thought, well, this is terrific. So he came off and he said, "Boys, very, very good, that." He said, "I thoroughly enjoyed the act." He said, "Oh," he said, "I'll tell you," he said, "I like that Shakespeare bit you did at the end," which I might tell you, the Shakespeare bit was supposed to be a takeoff of Noel Coward's Private Lives. So, but anyway, Max said, "Very good, boys, I thoroughly enjoyed it." He said, "Come up the bar," he said, "and I'll get you a drink." So we followed him up to the Circle bar we went into. The show's still going on down there, of course. So we sat down there, chatting about this and that. No sign of Max putting his hand in his pocket, so I thought, oh, this is it now. So I said, "All right, Mr. Miller, what would you like, Mr. Miller?" He said, "Look, I've asked you up for a drink. Just sit down, will you? We'll have a little chat." So we carried on chatting. Still no move for the hand towards the pocket. So my pal Eddie, he started getting up. And Max said, "Now, look, please, boys," he said, "I've told you, sit down and be patient. I've asked you up for a drink, haven't I? Now, sit down and relax." We're up there for about 3/4 of an hour, just talking. Eventually, the door opened at the end of the first half, you see. The door opened to the Circle bar, and all the audience came in. First thing they saw when they came in was Max sitting there. And they said, "Blimey, look, there he is, there's old Max. Hello, Max, what will you have?" He said, "Well, I'll have a gin and tonic, and what will you have, Roy? What will you have, Eddie?" So we did get a drink out of Max Miller.
Such was Max Miller's popularity that in 1950 he was invited once again to appear in a Royal Variety show at the London Paladium. I met him shortly before that fatal night, and it was a fatal night for Maxie, and he said to me, he said, "I'm fighting mad." He said, "They've given me 8 to 9 minutes." And he said, "Jack Benny has got an option for 25 minutes to half an hour." And he said, "I tell you, son," he said, "I'm going to stay on that stage for as long as I'm good." And I was very excited to see what happened, and Max stayed on, and believe me, he slayed that entire audience. And about, I think, 12, 13 minutes on, there was a voice from the back, "Come off, Maxie, come off, Maxie." And then they even pulled the tabs across Max. But he'd made it, and he was a hit of that show. And as he went into the wings, Val Parnell, the big impresario, was fighting mad, and he confronted Max Miller in those wings. And he said, "Max Miller, you will never, ever work again at the London Palladium or a Moss Empire date so long as I live, so help me God." And Max Miller said, "Mr. Parnell, you're £70,000 too late."
Now listen, the last time I played this theatre, I cracked a joke and somebody told the manager. They're not entitled to do that. It's jealousy. And how do I know? Because as a rule, he sits in the box. And tonight he's not there. Now I'm going to crack the same joke, but don't you laugh, because if you laugh, you know it's rude. Now I'll find out where he is. I think he's round the back. Now don't move and don't go out. Don't you go out till I come back. He's on the side, sitting in a bar chair with a silk hat and a whip.
Max was barred. His agent booked him with great success into opposition theatres. After a face-saving period, business considerations overcame Parnell's prejudices. Max returned in triumph to the London Palladium for a season.
Now, don't laugh. I've not got a nice figure, lady. Haven't I? No, I haven't I, ducky? No, honest. No, well, when I'm talking, it's rude to interfere. Like married life. No, I'm not a nice lady. I'm not yawning, I'm all muscle. Honest, I'm not.
There was this extraordinary tension. It was almost like a religious experience. You were all taking part in it, and you had your liturgy to respond to and to take part in, and you did have something to play, and you didn't just sit there passively or sit and be drunk and be rude or something like that. He kept you on your toes. There was this man coming on in these daisies and silks and so on. It was very extraordinary. I mean, I remember walking down the street and being jeered at for wearing a yellow pullover at the same time. It seemed a tremendous gesture of defiance. And you must remember, it was a time just before the war. It seemed to be run by magistrates and the BBC. And when I suppose the English people were going around looking more drab and dreary than they'd ever done for centuries.
Don't they ride up this weather? I've got new ones on tonight, lady, new ones. All rubber. Do you wear them, lady? You do, don't you, ducky? Oh, you want to wear them. They're very unhealthy. Very unhealthy.
There was this element, as I've said before, probably very boringly, but of danger about what he did. You never quite knew what he was going to do next. I mean, I think Kenneth Tynan said it was rather, every time he told a story, it was like a man unzipping his flies in a nunnery. And, which is, oversimplifies it, but you did feel that you were in the presence of someone who might make anything possible and anything possible for you to do.
I never saw his act in a huge hall, and I don't think I wanted to see it in a huge hall. It wasn't that kind of act. I think you needed to be reasonably close to him so that he could project.
Aye, I saw you. Roses are red, violets are blue. How do I know? I've seen them on the line.
Well, a great deal of it followed rather a fashion then in the music halls, was what one would call then suggestive. The words disappeared now because we live in the permissive age and there's no such thing as mere suggestion. I mean, it's just more references to anything goes now. But it didn't then. But his work was full of the suggestive.
I've just come back from my holidays. I always have a wonderful time when I go on my holidays because I haven't got one of those wives that says, where have you been? How much have you spent? Who have you been with? She doesn't say that. She comes with me. I go riding every Sunday now, along right in front, side saddle. Side saddle. That's the only way I can stay on. I've got my own skirt and everything. And last Sunday, everybody was laughing. I didn't know it was a city horse. Give me 4 and a bar, 2 barmaids and shuffle and cut twice.
I've always loved timing. After all, I've been a dramatist and I've worked in the theatre for many years. And I've always admired really clever, dominating timing. And he had it.
Both feet on the ground, yeah. Oh, tricky stuff, you know it. Going over.
He was the god of flashiness, which is a special, I know because I think I'm probably the only spiv playwright in this country. It's a quality I respond to because it's cheeky and it's flashy and it's daring.
With the post-war onslaught of television, Max found himself with more leisure time. Music halls were in trouble. Often situated on plum high street sites, the tempting offers from supermarket chains could not be ignored. The long-predicted decline of the halls became reality. When Max worked, it was a sellout. The public made the effort to leave the fireside, but artists of Max's calibre were few in number. Tatty revues and second-rate singers speeded the closures. Kathleen, his wife, was a great support during these years, but a hard life of touring began to show. In 1959, during a week of variety at the Finsbury Park Empire, Max was rushed to hospital with a major heart attack. He survived, being overwhelmed by the public's response to his welfare. He then confined his stage appearances to a few dates at the Brighton Hippodrome. His boast to theatre managements, "You never lose money with Maxie," remained true to the end.
The last time I met Max must have been about 3 or 4 months before he died, and he invited me down to Brighton, and he said, "Come on, son," he said, "let's go and sit on the OAP's bench on Marine Parade." So we went and sat down there, and he was very sad, and I noticed that he got very grey, and all the zest and life seemed to have gone out of the man. And he looked out at the sea, and he said, "Here," he said, "those waves are very wicked, aren't they?" He said, "If I jumped over and committed suicide, you know what they'd say in the paper? They'd say that Max Miller died on the crest of a wave, eh?" So I laughed with him. And he said, "Do you know," he said, "looking back after all these years," he said, "I look at Max Miller," and he said, "an old man sitting on a bench." He said, "What am I? I'm a nobody." He said, "But the Cheeky Chappie, he was a great bloke."
Max Miller was unique. He once said, "When I'm dead and gone, the game's finished." The inevitable office block rises on the hallowed ground of the Holborn Empire. No more tales of Rosie, Josephine, Sarah, and most famous of all, Mary, together with predatory landladies, mothers-in-law, and persons of low morals and doubtful parentage. They were the lucky ones, queuing for a seat at their local hippodrome, palace or empire. But Max's spirit lives on, bridging the gap between footlights and auditorium.
I'm ready for bed. Anybody? Are you listening? Here's one. They took the vanity from the peacock, the cunning from the fox, the brains from a jackass, the jawbone from an ox, the venom from the viper, the stinger from the bee, put them all in my old woman and bound her onto me. And between you and I, my wife's the ugliest woman in the world. The ugliest woman in the world. I'd sooner take her with me than kiss her goodbye. You never know when I'm kidding, do you? I like the girls who do. I like the girls who don't. I hate the girl who says she will, and then she says she won't. But the girl I like the best of all, and I think you'll sound right, is the girl who says she never does, but she looks as though she... Yeah, you know what I do? I don't care what I say, do I? I don't care, honest I don't. You won't hear me on Sunday on Luxembourg, I'm filthy. I don't care, I don't. Miller's a name, lady, there'll never be another, will there? They don't make them today, Doc. Look, I'll tell you what I'll do tonight. I'll do 2 courses of Ramblin' Rose with the boys, and then I'll do Sally by myself. You know, I think I've got the makings of a dirty old man, don't you? One day, a girl, she was barfing. The maid said, "Here comes Mr. Three." She said, "All right, bring him here to me. He's quite pleased, the poor chap can't see." She stood there like beautiful Venus. Went into the bathroom, walked Jack. He said, "I have just come to tell you, today I've got my eyesight back."
This was a man who could project a quite different image from what he really was.
Review-wise, production-wise, film-wise, no. Television, no. Stand-up front cloth comic, the greatest in the world.
You could take your kids to see Max, and they may be bored, perhaps didn't know a word of what he was talking about, but they were never shocked.
I called my son Max because I'd like him to be like Max.
Oh, he had a wonderful feel for an audience, a wonderful instinct.
He was very special, very particular, unrepeatable. That, I think, is probably a definition of genius.
I fell in love with Mary from the dairy, but Mary wouldn't fall in love with me. Down by an old mill stream, we both sat down to dream. Little did she know that I was thinking of a scheme. Now on our farm, said Mary from the dairy, we've got the finest cows you've ever seen. I don't do things by halves, I'll let you see my calves, and they're not the same shaped calves as Nellie Dean. My missus says she's going to divorce me. The moment that she does, then I am free. There's a pretty girl I know, I'll take her and I'll show just where Mary from the dairy fell for me. Miller's tonight, lady. There'll never be another, will there? They don't make them today, that.